Stop calling them militants. Call them terrorists. Call them murderers. You have militants in the civil rights movement, but we don't go around holding hostages and killing people and beheading babies.
Depending on how you define those three things, certainly there's a lot of killing, there's a lot of beheading babies, and some occasional hostages. The Reverend Al Charlatan, I think he might have been influenced by Gurgle. It's possible that Gurgle was behind all that. The Reverend Al Charlatan. He's paid 7 figures by NBC News to be a journalist. It's quite a country we're running here, isn't it? Well, happy Tuesday to the extent that happy days are still here. They're not here again. Certainly not in Israel, not in the Middle East, not in Ukraine. Joe Biden's wars, keep your eyes peeled. And we had a brilliant caller yesterday. Keep your eyes peeled for China. They might want to make their move on Taiwan right about now. They know they've got this weak, feckless sister in the White House who is not getting the job done and doesn't stand up for Western civilization because, they're really not on our side. And as the Troglodytes in the Gaza, and we had them there, it's occupied land, man. Israel has to be given back to the Troglodytes because the Israelites who go back to Moses have no claim on this spit of land, the only spit of land in the region without oil, by the way. And they're just obsessed. It's completely berserk. And they have the Gaza. They were given the Gaza in 2005. The Gaza Strip, they call it. It's not quite Sunset Strip or the Strip in Las Vegas. It's sort of the death and, soot version of that, because the Troglodytes from hell. I've actually renamed the Gaza Strip. I call it Trogistan. It's Trogistan. Trogistan is the place from which the Troglodytes oozed out of the cracks in the earth to go murder and kidnap and rape, because that's what they do. Is Gaza stolen land, or is that the only part that's not stolen? Because, honestly, somebody has a claim to it before the time of Moses, millennia before Jesus Christ himself, who was Jewish, and the Jews have no claim to the land. Is that what I'm hearing? And yes, it is what I'm hearing. From whom? Well, from the left and from the Troglodytes, from the murderers, the genocidal lunatics, gargling in the blood of innocents. Yeah, so Gaza, I'm changing its name to Trogistan, because, they got the Stan, you got your Pakistan and your Afghanistan, all your Stans, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. Stan means land, You got like, Finland and Holland and Deutschland and all that. They got land. And then over there in Central Asia, they have the Stans. The Stans are the lands. And the Gaza, I think, is the land of the Troglodytes. And it should be renamed appropriately as Trogistan, because these are the Troglodytes who are waging a blood-drenched war against civilization, and the Democrats are pretty much on their side. They're not on our side. That's for sure. Man, oh man, oh man. Now, if you like a troglodyte, some people say troglodyte. Is it? Some people actually say, is that a real word? Yeah, that's a real word, yeah. It refers to a person in prehistoric times that lived in a cave or in pits in the earth. A person who is regarded as being deliberately ignorant or old-fashioned. Old-fashioned. Well, I think you could say that these troglodytes are old-fashioned. Wouldn't you say they're old-fashioned? I'd say they're pretty old-fashioned in that they're living in centuries gone by. And interestingly enough, the left here in the United States, they live in centuries gone by too. They think that there's still slavery in America, and it must be addressed. The reality is there are more slaves on the planet Earth today than at any point in human history. But the Democrats don't care about that. Yeah, the troglodytes, a member of any of various peoples, as in antiquity, who lived or were reputed to live chiefly in caves. A person characterized by reclusive habits or outmoded or reactionary attitudes. I think you might say that they're troglodytes. And the Gaza is Trogistan. And, the H.G. Wells, The Time Machine, where they had the Morlocks and the Eloi. And I've been making this analogy for many years. The Morlocks are the troglodyte-like creatures that live in the caves and come out occasionally to grab the naive Eloi, the pretty hairless people who are living peacefully by the pond, enjoying themselves. And then the troglodytes grab them and drag them into their caves where they eat them. They use them as a food source. And liberals, so-called, in the United States are very often the Eloi. They're very often in that they're willfully ignorant of the realities of the modern world, and then they become a food source for the troglodytes. At the same time, the left then becomes the most vicious gang of murderers in the history of the world. So they flow back and forth between being the Eloi, the innocent, helpless, naive people, and the troglodytes, who loot your stores and burn your police stations and overturn police cars and steal everything that everybody ever had. And of course, they go around shooting people at a rate that they don't have in Baghdad. The crime rate in Baghdad is lower than the crime rate in Chicago. How many murders in Baghdad in the last month? How many murders in Chicago in the last month? Let's do the math, shall we? So we've got a lot going on, of course. But Trogistan, the Gaza is because I say it's good, no innocence on stolen land. Graffiti seen in downtown Washington, D.C. No innocent, if you're on stolen land and they declare Israel to be stolen land, then you're not innocent. Therefore, you can be killed, and it's fair, kidnapped, raped, murdered, tortured, and it's okay. And the troglodytes are saying that they're going to murder one hostage. We don't know how many hostages they have, more than 100. And, they sexually abuse everybody. And they say they're going to murder, they say on live television, I don't think they know what that is, one hostage every time Israel drops a bomb, right? So they're going to murder their hostages pretty rapidly. Then they won't have any hostages, and they can't get the, $1.2 billion per hostage that Joe Biden paid Iran just a matter of weeks ago, setting an example for the world because Joe Biden is a moron. We got Morlocks, we got morons, we've got maroons, we've got all kinds of things here. Extraordinary times. And I'm on the side of civilization. I always have been. Since before September 11th, 2001, I've been pro-civilization. The troglodytes, not. The left, most of the time, not. All right? That's their thing. And I do want to, because I mentioned this, but I didn't really get into it. Riley Gaines, the college swimmer, she had to swim against a man who said his name was Leah Thomas. And he's mentally ill. And he beat Riley Gaines and all the other women in swim meets because he's a man and he's cheating. And the Democrats love cheating. So just like the East Germans used to send men to compete as women to the Olympics, and we would catch them every now and then. But now the Democrats are the East Germans in this story. Riley Gaines was planning on holding an event today, October 10th, which she has declared to be Real Women's Day. And the reason she's declared it to be Real Women's Day is because October 10th, Roman numerals, XX, the female chromosome is XX, the male chromosome is XY. And she said, hey, look at that Roman numerals, got to think about the Roman Empire every day. It's appropriate because they're so great. Not that they didn't have problems. They crucified Jesus. Let's start with that. They were also, bad guys, not pure, but leftists. They've erased all of history, and they don't know anything about history. So 10/10, October 10th, and my best girl's birthday, my bride's birthday today. And it was kind of fun. I said good morning to her and give her a nice kiss before the sun came up today. And she said, I think this is the first time you remembered my birthday before I remembered my birthday. So I don't know if I get points for that or I get points taken off for that one way or the other. So Riley Gaines, and I also told her a happy Real Women's Day. And so Riley Gaines had been planning on holding an event at Penn State University, which, as you might imagine, is in Pennsylvania. And then they just canceled it on her. It was going to be Real Women's Day event on XX 10/10, October 10th. And Riley Gaines was set to speak at Penn State University on Tuesday for what she dubbed Real Women's Day. Gaines has made a movement on social media to make October 10th Real Women's Day. The date in Roman numerals is XX, which is the chromosome pairing of biological females, as opposed to other kinds of females. Just stop saying biological females. It's females, it's women, it's girls. They're wonderful. Stop erasing them, Democrats. Stop assaulting them, Democrats and Troglodytes. However, Gaines posted on X, they still like to say formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, we know. Okay, we understand. Posted on X on Monday that the school canceled her speech. The former college swimmer, though, caught the university in its tracks, posting a video of the Penn State president, Neeli Bendapudi. Neeli Bendapudi is the president of Penn State University. She went to college in Kansas and in India, explaining that as a public university, the school is bound by the First Amendment to bring in speakers that many will consider controversial, because it's controversial to praise real women on October 10th. That's because whatever the left doesn't want to do is labeled as controversial, and then universities and public institutions funded by the taxpayer can stop them and trample First Amendment rights, because the left doesn't believe in the Bill of Rights. It's an a la carte menu to them. And she pointed out that they're bound by the First Amendment. And let's you have some audio of Neeli Bendapudi, because Neeli Bendapudi is the president at Penn State University, and she, I don't know, I don't think her values pair with my values.
You may ask, if so many individuals, including the president of the university, find these speakers so objectionable, why can't we just ban them from our campuses? First, as a public university, Penn State University is bound by the First Amendment.
Bound by it. They don't agree with it, but they're bound by it. They don't want to respect it, but they think it's, the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights in the United States of America. But now Neeli Bendapudi is reluctantly, feels like maybe she's forced to go along, but they still canceled Riley Gaines' speech.
The First Amendment is the law in our country that protects citizens from government censorship or punishment for speech or ideas that the government does not approve. Without the First Amendment, your access to information would be threatened. Your voice could be censored or silenced, and your internet use could be filtered.
Which happens all the time at the request of the left on X, formerly known as Twitter. And when it was Twitter and they had Jack Dorsey, remember the FBI was calling Twitter and Facebook and telling them to crush stories about the Biden family, which the Biden family didn't want to have out there. So Riley Gaines' speech canceled at Penn State. Even though Neeli Bendapudi said they're bound by the First Amendment, it was canceled. They say, oh, well, she didn't reserve her room in time. That's what happened, because there are 1,000 ways to lie in the naked city. President Joe Biden's plan to inflict the digital dollar on all of us is already nefariously underway, and it's very important to understand the potential consequences here, because notwithstanding what they're telling us, this is not in your best interest or mine. And time is of the essence, so getting smart on this subject now is a really great idea if you want to protect your savings and your retirement. You can help protect your savings from the scheme, the digital dollar scheme that Joe Biden is inflicting by diversifying your money in IRAs with gold and silver, precious metals. You get started by calling the experts at American Alternative Assets. Call them today at 888-4GOLD20, 888-446-5320. They'll give you all the guidance you need on safeguarding your retirement savings. Say no to Joe Biden's digital dollar. Get started by calling 888-4GOLD20. Individual results may vary. There is no guarantee that past performance of gold and silver will be indicative of future results. Seek your own legal, tax, investment, and financial advice before opening an account. Yeah, they don't believe in free speech. And then they come out and they say, but we must respect the First Amendment, and then cancel her speech anyway. Sieg Heil. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Jack, calling from Satellite Beach, Florida. Jack, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Christopher.
Hey, Jack.
First, happy birthday to Mrs. Plant. First and foremost, happy birthday to your lovely wife.
Thank you.
Second, happy International Women's Day. And third, happy Charles Martel Day, whom, as you know, saved Europe from becoming Islamic in 732.
The Battle of Tours.
Exactly, sir.
The Battle of Tours, and it was yet another Muslim invasion in Europe, and 732 is a long time ago, so they're invading Gaul. But yeah, Charles Martel's on this date in 732, repelled the Umayyad invasion, the Caliphate.
He sure did, and he, as you know, also made France France. So I guess he did one thing good, stopped the Islamists, but second, he made France France. But anyway, yeah, he was a great leader.
That's funny.
And not everybody can be perfect, I guess. But he was a great leader. Started off as just a mayor and then wound up saving all of Western Europe from the horrors of being Islamic as it is practiced today. So thought I would just pass that along. But like I said, first and foremost, happy birthday to Mrs. Plant. That's
very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Beautiful Satellite Beach. I have a friend in Cocoa Beach, and their family has a business in Satellite Beach and in Cocoa Beach, my friend Tom. But that is a fun one. That's right. You know, the Islamic invasion of Christendom has been ongoing for many, many centuries.
Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberry.
Troglodytes is being bombed, and I can't reveal my source, but yesterday, just let me say that I got secondhand a 4-star general, now retired, but still in the business in Washington, D.C., was asked, so what do you think is up with Gaza? What's going to happen with Gaza? And the response was, Gaza is gone. Now, that's brief and sort of like the Oracle of Delphi, giving you a cryptic response. And at the same time, what we're watching is bomb after bomb after bomb dropping on the beep hole called Troglodytes. And I tell you what, let's drive the residents. It's like 1.9 million residents in this area, a little more than twice the size of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., about 650,000 people, fewer than 700,000 people. And the area twice the size of Washington, D.C., plus it's more than twice the size of Washington, D.C. They've got about 1.9 million people, according to most estimates. And you know, it's beachfront property. It should be heaven. They're in a perfect position to watch the sunset across the Mediterranean. You could have cafes instead of suicidal death cults where you raise your children to murder and then kill themselves, which is, not a civilizational goal, I think, but in some parts of the world, it's the norm nonetheless. And the troglodytes in Trogistan are getting their comeuppance. Yesterday, I was talking about this, and I quoted Stonewall Jackson at the Battle of Fredericksburg, talking about the Yankees he wanted to kill. I come from a long line of Yankees myself, and he said, "Kill them all." Famous quote. And American Civil War, which the Democrats started when they shelled Fort Sumter and made their president, Jefferson Davis, the Democrat president, the history of the Democrat Party. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm telling you, these troglodytes, with their hostages and the rapes and the torture and the decapitations and the attacks on grandmothers who are Holocaust survivors and children and babies. They're literally murdering babies. But, the Democrats would have a little trouble arguing with that, given their current situation. Also, beheaded babies have been found. A baby with the umbilical cord still attached, found next to a woman who was riddled with bullets because they cut the baby out, like the Manson gang. They were Democrats too, the Manson gang, by the way. The reality is these animals are going to have to be hunted and killed for the good of civilization, for the good of humanity, for the good of the planet Earth. Man, oh man. Now, at the same time, Cobble Kirby, my pal Cobble Kirby, now disgraced former Admiral Cobble Kirby of the United States Navy, believe it or not. He was on the television yesterday on the Fox News channel with Martha MacCallum and in the afternoon. And Martha MacCallum, with all the news going on and the war in the Middle East and war in Ukraine, and we're waiting for China to pop on Taiwan and North Korea with their nuclear weapons, and Iran is behind all of this, and they're spinning centrifuges and enriching uranium. And we had one of our brilliant callers yesterday mention the possibility of a dirty bomb coming out of the Iranians, and that, a radiological bomb, radiological weapon using radioactive materials and an explosive device to irradiate and poison an area and people, of course. And the troglodytes in Trogistan, formerly known as Gaza, just like X is formerly known as Twitter, that Trogistan is formerly known as Gaza, or the Gaza Strip. 77 sunset. Not exactly at all. So Cobble Kirby on Fox News yesterday, and Martha MacCallum said, President Joe Biden just the other day said that the greatest threat to humankind is, is it Republicans, maybe Catholics, Trump voters, because this is the kind of stuff they say all the time. No, it was the weather. We should all wake up in fear of the weather every day.
I want to play this soundbite for you that is just last month in Vietnam and ask you if this still holds for the president. Watch.
The only existential threat humanity faces, even more frightening than a nuclear war,
sure,
is global warming going above 1.5 degrees in the next 10 years.
I live in
Even all
terror.
the nuclear players in
Horror.
these two areas where we are now engaged on. Does the president stand by that comment?
Absolutely he does.
Absolutely he does. Heck yeah, the weather is the scariest thing in the world. And then they decapitate your baby and slap her head on a pike and disembowel everybody around. But Penn, and this has been going on since... I just told you a story of a battle in what is now France, then Gaul, because of the Romans and all that. Brushing back yet another caliphate. The Moors invaded Spain and held on to it for, 800 years in southern Spain. Never mind that. And still, they come. Still they come. Cobble Kirby said, oh, heck yeah, he does. The weather is the scariest thing in the world, 1.5 degrees, and we're all dead. Pay no attention to the armies of decapitating ghouls.
Climate change is an existential threat. It could,
Sure.
It actually threatens and is capable of wiping out all human life on Earth over time. I mean, I don't know how more existential you can get to that, but that doesn't mean that we walk away from our obligations, our national security interests.
Sure. Yeah. That 1.5 degree thing has got me terrified every day. I can't tell you how afraid I am. And if the climate could just exterminate certain people, like, who shall we say? Martha McCallum pushing back with the statement of the obvious.
But John, he said it was more frightening than a nuclear war. Is that it's more frightening than a nuclear war in this moment?
The president believes wholeheartedly that climate change is an existential threat to all of human life on the planet. That's just science. That's a fact, Martha.
That's science. That's
fact.
fact.
Turn our back on the
How many genders are there, Admiral?
This country and our allies and partners around the world.
Yeah, I don't look to these people for a scientific guidance, counsel, or advice anymore. I really don't. They claim to be the party of science, and then they tell me in San Francisco that there are 130 some odd genders, and that men can become women just by saying so, and that chromosomes don't count. You're not the party of science, and honestly, he is an embarrassment to the United States Navy, to the U.S. government, to men, Americans, to Western civilization. He's a terrorist. He's spreading terror, right, by this weather, and they're all doing it. We only have what Joe Biden said even more recently, that we have 10 years left, 10 years. And, of course, according to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, noted scientist and climatologist and bartender, she, like 4 years ago, said we had 12 years left. So the clock is ticking out loud, like Marissa Tomei's biological clock. Just amazing. John Radcliffe is a former member of the House of Representatives and Director of National Intelligence. And he was on the television yesterday talking about the intelligence failure. They love this intelligence failure thing on the part of the United States government. How could the United States we're now being told this troglodyte attack on civilization had been in the pipeline for 2 years. 9/11 was in the pipeline for 6 years, I think. And, if Western civilization were going to pull that off, we'd do it in about a week. But that's how you get 1,000 years behind the rest of civilization, one bad, dumb day at a time. But John Ratcliffe yesterday talking about how the United States should have intercepted this. Iran moving thousands of missiles, the meetings with the Iranians in Beirut and Hezbollah, and this thing was in the pipeline for a long time. How could U.S. intelligence have missed this thing being in the pipeline? Don't we pay $1 trillion and pay a bunch of corrupt communists to pretend to be intelligence officers, and then they sign on to felonious letters, saying that Hunter Biden's laptop is not really Hunter Biden's laptop. It has all the earmarks of Russian disinformation, when in reality, we got a bunch of Russian disinformation people like John Brennan in our own machine, in our own government. John Radcliffe yesterday pointing out something else.
This was an intelligence failure, and it was in part because the Biden administration changed the priorities. President Trump correctly outlined under the National Intelligence Priority Frameworks, we focused on the eradication of the ISIS caliphate, which we achieved, and we focused on Islamic terrorist regime Iran, minimizing their influence. We were very successful. The first thing Joe Biden did when he came into office was to scramble all of that and to state clearly that the intelligence community would focus on our top national security threat, climate change.
Ah, yes, that's why our guard was down. He is really something. The war through weakness model is embodied in Joe Biden and the Biden administration. Peace through strength, Donald Trump. War through weakness, Joe Biden, Democrats, many of whom are with Hamas. including Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and Cori Bush, to name but three of the Mod Squad leftists, radicals, anti-American, genocidal anti-Semites, and there are a lot of Democrats that are genocidal anti-Semites. It's pretty amazing. John Ratcliffe yesterday.
Since that time, he's added focusing on domestic violent extremists, which they have defined to include parents and Catholics and even now Trump supporters. So, the idea, the intelligence enterprise is very good at focusing on what the administration wants. And in this case, we had them focusing on the weather instead of on Hamas. And I don't think anyone should be surprised at this kind of an outcome, unfortunately.
The weather. And that's our federal government. And this is real. This is not Saturday Night Live, which is not funny and hasn't been in a long time. And these people aren't supposed to be funny. Speaking of which, Kevin McCarthy has now said, hey, if somebody wanted him to be Speaker of the House again, then he might consider jumping back in because there's a lot of urgent business. The House has to pass a declaration condemning the attack on Israel. And that will do nothing, but it's an urgent matter in cable news circles. But Kevin McCarthy was on the television yesterday on the Fox News channel, and he was talking about, well, a similar topic.
President Biden has said previously that he believes the number one threat to America is facing is climate change. That is not true.
No, it's not.
The number one threat killing Americans is terrorism.
It's Democrats.
The number one threat is an open border.
Yeah, and, honestly, Democrats, stop shooting people. Stop shooting people. What's more dangerous, Baltimore or Baghdad? Kevin McCarthy. He was, he was on his game. He's people like him. He's supposed to be a nice guy.
Rather focus on his Green New Deal, he should focus on protecting the American people.
Nah.
We need an immediate assessment of our own areas of weakness and a glaring weakness in our own southern border. We know that individuals on the terrorist watch list have crossed Biden's open border. Who are these people?
Who are they?
Who are they in contact with? And what are their plans to here in America?
We don't care. We're going to wait and find out, just see if it turns out well. If it doesn't, then it'll probably be the Republicans' fault because of something. That's how that works. Open borders. Also, Joe Biden thinks that girls are boys and boys are girls. But he seems to only goose and grab and sexually assault actual girls. Isn't that, as far as we know, could have a Kevin Spacey moment later on. It's hard to say. I still have Benjamin Netanyahu for you coming up, and more on that because there are two wars. I was going to say there's a war going on, but Joe Biden's president. There are two major wars going on right now, and keep your eyes on Taiwan. Hey, do you have smelly odors in your home that you've tried but you just can't get rid of? Well, now you can get rid of any stinky odor with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. The Thunderstorm gets rid of strong odors from cooking and cigarette smoke and litter boxes and trash cans, and even leftists are no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The Thunderstorm starts working in a matter of seconds to clear any room of any odor, and no expensive filters to buy and replace again and again like some air purifiers. They've sold hundreds of thousands of Thunderstorms, and the 5-star reviews online are legion. They're everywhere. Check them out for yourself. And this week, I've got a great deal for you to save money and get your own Thunderstorms. Right now, you can save $200 when you get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifiers for whole home protection. They're not big old things. They're the size of a soup can. You can hold one in your hand. That's 3 units for under $200. Just go to EdenPureDeals.com and enter the discount code Chris. That's me, CHRIS. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris, and you get free shipping, which is nice. Yeah, the Democrat Party is the left. And the left is a threat to humanity and to civilization and to science and to the truth and to the obvious. Now, I don't want to disgust you, but we have to share with you the truth of what's going on in the world and what the Troglodytes in Trogistan are doing in their ongoing genocidal effort to exterminate the Jews and exterminate the state of Israel so they can turn it into a filthy, smelly, non-functional. You know, the Israelis turned off the electricity because they don't have their own electricity, and they attack the people that give them electricity. Every day is an IQ test, and they fail it every single day. Now, here is the story from the Jewish Chronicle. Hamas terrorists murdered 40 babies, 40 babies, including beheadings. According to multiple reports, Israeli soldiers discovered horrific scene at Kfar Aza kibbutz near the Gaza border, Trogistan. The bodies of Israeli babies, including some with their heads cut off, have been found by IDF soldiers in a southern Israeli kibbutz, according to reports, multiple reports. Soldiers discovered the bodies among burned houses, strewn furniture, and torched cars. Sounds like the Trump inauguration in Washington. After Hamas terrorists attacked Kfar Aza kibbutz near the Gaza border. In a video posted on X, an I-24 journalist, Israeli television news, talking to some of the soldiers here, said what they witnessed as they've been walking through these communities is bodies of babies with their heads cut off and families gunned down in their beds. We can see some of these soldiers right now comforting each other. This is the enemy that the Israelis face. It is a time for choosing. There are a number of Democrat members of Congress that have chosen the baby killers.